Hello, hello, lovely, and welcome to another episode of Loving Life with Court. Today, we are talking about a life that is loved and all good. When I was very young, I always felt like I had a positive attitude. Like I always could find the positive in things in any situation. And as I grew up, I realized the difference between optimism and blind positivity. I have a whole episode on that. If you want to go check it out, I can link it in the show notes. But I realized the difference between this. And then this blind positivity shifted into having a very optimistic perspective. And now I'm having another shift where I am learning to see everything as all good. And this doesn't mean that no matter what happens, I just say, it's all good, it's fine, no worries. But instead, it's the focus of making space for anything, any emotions that come up with no judgment. So let's explore what that looks like. It wasn't very long ago where these types of feelings and emotions and situations sounded very familiar to me. And these are things like always in defensive mode, quick to react, overstimulated very easily, became frustrated quickly, lashing out on the ones I love for what felt like no reason, and taking everything personal. Now, as I have evolved in my journey, I realized how familiar these were for me and how long I had been living in this state. And what this state is the need to control. What it all comes down to, these feelings of being quick to react and always in defensive mode and getting frustrated, no matter if it's a big thing or a small thing. These all stem down to the need to control things, controlling your emotions, controlling the experiences, controlling situations. So let's understand and learn together how to embrace a perspective of it's all good. What I have come to realize is your own insecurities become the driver of your reactions. And I'll give you a few examples of what I mean by this. If you are somebody that has a fear of criticism, you just really struggle with taking criticism from others. And if this roots from being frequently criticized in your past, likely some form of childhood trauma or experience, a casual comment from someone might trigger an emotional reaction based on those old wounds. So this is something that you struggle with. It's an insecurity receiving criticism, and your reactions stem from that insecurity. Another example could be having a negative inner dialogue. So if you're constantly telling yourself, I'm not good enough, I'm always failing, you'll likely view interactions with others through that lens. And a simple comment might feel like confirmation of your inadequacy, and this triggers feelings of shame or anger. So what this really comes down to is our reactions are heavily based on our deep-rooted insecurities. How can we remove these existing past wounds, insecurities that still affect us today, so that when situations come up, we can see them as the purest intentions from the other person and no longer be triggered by not just people, but any kind of events. When things don't work out for you, when things don't go to the plan, when, whatever situation, person, interaction that it is, it all stems from your self-worth, your self-love, and the insecurities that are still influencing your day-to-day. In short, like I said, our reactions to others, events, situations are often rooted in our own insecurities. So how do we solve this? Like I touched on the beginning of today's episode, is make space for your emotions. Make space for your insecurities, make space for your triggers. What many of us believe is that we either have to suppress things, so when it comes up, ignore it, not actually understand what's going on the subtle layers. So we either ignore it or we try to lean into it. We try to understand it more. We try to dig. And although it's important to understand where our insecurities come from, understand how to overcome it, what first needs to happen is making space for these emotions, situations, experiences, insecurities. And what this looks like is when things come up for you, when you become triggered, we'll say, taking a step back and accepting it with no judgment. So if you feel insecure about your body image, it's no longer something that you need to fight. It's actually something that you can make space for to properly understand where it's coming from and overcome it. So really taking this experience to a whole visualization practice where these things come up for you and you can mentally let it in with no judgment. So saying to yourself, okay, right now I'm feeling insecure. I give it space, bringing it to a place where you're not fighting it. You're not judging it. You're not saying if it's a good thought or a bad thought. Once you're able to actually visualize the space that you are making within your mind, within your body, within your energy system, it takes practice, but just stepping back, giving it space, not judging it. Thoughts are not good or bad. It's just there. It just exists and it's all good. And when you can do that, when you can start actually making space for these things, it allows you to think more clearly to where this emotion or trigger is coming from and how you can overcome it, staying really present by identifying the sensations in your body, the tension in your body. And again, not fighting it, just observing it, becoming an observer to your emotions, to your pain, to your insecurities, whether that's physical or mental. And then allow room for exploration. So this is where I said you can really get to that point where you can begin to understand why this is happening. Instead of suppressing or fighting it or overanalyzing it, you can begin to really grasp where it came from, what events transpired in your past experiences that has caused or resulted in this insecurity. And then when you're able to make this space, when you're able to stay present, not fight the sensations or emotions or triggers that come up, allow room for exploration, this is where you get to it's all good. You begin to see things for what they are and avoid fighting and just focus on accepting. And when you can accept things, things don't really hurt anymore because you're moving forward. You found a way to overcome it. The more and more you work through it in a way where you're making space for that, it begins to hurt less. It's not coming from a place of tension, but a place of feeling. And this cycle continues. Things come up, you make room for it, you're present in the sensations, allow room for exploration. It's all good, seeing things for what they are. That's how you can really begin to embody this mindset of it's all good. That's today's episode. I love you so much, and a friendly reminder to not only be kind to others, but also to your beautiful, amazing self. I'll see you on the next episode.